This is the Louie Tee Network.
Who else could it be but me, Dormant, Louie Tee? Welcome to Lockdown Coverage, week number 12 in the National Football League. The Oakland Raiders looking to get to 9-2 on the season and clinch their first winning season since their Super Bowl season of 2002. It's been quite some time for these Raiders and a winning record. So, big game for the Raiders. And looking at the landscape in that AFC West, can't afford to slip up at home to a lifeless Panthers football team because Sunday Night Football is going to feature both the Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Someone's going to move to 8-3 on the season unless we get another tie. So if you're the Raiders, you can't afford to drop to 8-3 and have someone tie you for this division. You want to control your own destiny, just simply win. As a wise man once told me once upon a time, just win, baby. Just win. So, Raiders looking to get to 9-2. Panthers season on life support, barely hanging on by a thread. Every single team in that NFC South won on Sunday. So the Panthers looking to make it a clean sweep for that division, trying to go into Oakland and steal one. A big game for them as well because a loss here puts them at 4-7 and basically buries them in that NFC South division. A win keeps their season alive, even if barely. So this was a big one for the Panthers as well. Remember, no Luke Kuechly in this game, among others. No sack leader. They had a ton of guys out. Ryan Khalil continues to be out. So a number of guys out for the Panthers. Going to have to find a way to get it done on the road. We'll talk about this game here in a second. But first, what a game it was. If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? No, seriously, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content in 2016 and beyond. Look, we're changing the game over here. Want you to be a part of that by simply hitting that red subscribe button and help us change the game here on the Louie Tee Network. Also, I'm on Twitter. @InTheLabRoom is the Twitter handle. Go ahead, follow me on Twitter. That is the most efficient way to keep tabs on the Louie Tee Network. When I go live, when I post a new video, you have the notifications turned on your Twitter account. If you're following me, you'll know exactly when I'm going live and can join the fun in here on this channel. Also, if you have a Facebook account, so do I. In the Lab Room is my Facebook page. Go ahead and give me that thumbs up on Facebook and help me change the game there as well. Haven't gotten in as deep as I would like to on Facebook, but it's coming. Trust and believe it is coming. And so I want you to go ahead and get ahead of the curve. So when I start doing my thing on Facebook, you're not out in the dark. Okay, so go ahead and give me that thumbs up on Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter @InTheLabRoom. And also, make sure, first and foremost, you are subscribed to the Louie Tee Network on YouTube. So that being said, all of that out of the way now, let's jump into this breakdown of a wild game out in Alameda as the Oakland Raiders took on the Carolina Panthers in a really exhilarating football game. A lot of twists and turns, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of different storylines leaving this football game. Let's jump into it. Likes, dislikes, banana in the tailpipe. And we're going to go ahead and start with the road team, that being the Carolina Panthers, and their likes from the first half of this game. And you start with that run game. I thought early on the run game kept them alive in this game because Cam Newton struggled in the first half. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But the run game, big run by Jonathan Stewart. That keyed off that first half touchdown, the lone score for the Panthers in the first half. Big 47-yard Jonathan Stewart run. And then Cam Newton does the rest to get in to cap that drive off to give the Panthers their first touchdown of the game. And at that time, we didn't know that would be their only touchdown in the first half as they would struggle offensively. But again, the Raiders can be run on. You saw that on that particular drive. And that was something that I thought that was going to be the blueprint for this Panthers offense. The remainder of the game is running the football, especially seeing the way that Cam Newton was struggling to throw the football. You would think that they would lean a little bit more heavily on the run game. That was not the case throughout, however, but that was a big run early in the game to give them some good field position and then have Cam cap it off with the touchdown run. So that was the only like in the first half for this Panthers football team. Let's go to the Raiders and their first half likes in this game. Derek Carr thought he started off razor sharp, red hot, 9 of 9, and coincidentally, his first incompletion was a drop by Krabs, who has been struggling to catch the football, struggled again in the first half, but he came on like gangbusters in the second half. We'll talk about that and all of the things that the Raiders were able to do in the second half of this game. But the Raiders dominated the first half, and Derek Carr was probably at the forefront of that dominance with the way he was throwing the football against this depleted Panthers defense. And so no Addison, no Luke Kuechly. That spelled trouble for this Panthers defense, and Derek Carr came out and really took it to him early in this football game. Khalil Mack with a pick 6 to end the first half. The Raiders were up 24-7. This looked like the makings of a blowout. I had every bit of confidence that the Raiders were going to be able to put this lifeless Panthers team away after the pick 6 by Khalil Mack. Great play to read the pass of Newton, get his hands up, pick it off, running into the end zone. At that point, the black hole is rocking. This team is dominating. Everything is going the way of the Raiders in the first half. This game looks like it is over. 24-7 at the half, and I'm thinking this thing is done. Let's get to the dislikes of the first half for the Carolina Panthers. Tolbert not getting a first down, I thought, on one of the early possessions, either the first or the second possession of the game. Cam dumps it off to him on 3rd and 10. He runs, and instead of him running through a tackle and picking up the first down because he's going to go forward, we're talking about the fire hydrant here. We're talking about Tolbert. This guy is like 270 pounds. No, there's no way one defender is going to bring him down and knock him backwards. Yet he decides to stop all momentum and dance and try to go around someone and falls a yard short of the first down. What are you doing, man? You're like 270, bruh. If you don't lower your shoulder and get the first down. Again, these are the reasons why the Panthers are 4-7 right now. Just little things like that. Not sustaining a drive and having to punt. So what the difference is between them last season and this season, just making the small little plays that they didn't make, aren't making this year that they did make a season ago. The defense, thought they were horrible in the first half. Poor tackling. And, that's what you're going to get with Luke Kuechly out of the lineup. Bless Klein's heart. A.J. Klein, bless his heart, man. He was trying, but there were so many missed tackles in that first half. It was ridiculous. And it's not what you're used to seeing from this Panthers football team, but that's where they are. There was one play where I think Crabtree caught like a little dump off, and you got, I want to say Klein was the first one out there. He whiffs. I don't even think he laid a finger on him. Then here comes like Kurt Coleman. He tries to put his shoulder down, and Crabtree just bounces off of him. And then finally, Trey Boston comes in and cuts him. 3 guys to take down Michael Crabtree? Really? It was a really poor effort tackling in this first half by the Carolina Panthers defense. And again, no Luke Kuechly, go figure. Pick 6, giving up the pick 6 late in the first half. Look, you're struggling already offensively. Defensively, you're not doing the things that you want to do. Don't exacerbate the problem and throw a pick 6 and go down 24-7 at the half. Don't do that. Okay, it's bad enough you're struggling. It's bad enough that things aren't going the way you want them to. Don't make the problem worse by throwing a pick 6. Don't do that. And that's exactly what Cam Newton did at the late stages of the first half, which allowed the Raiders to take a 24-7 halftime lead. Let's go to the Raiders' first half dislikes. You've got the dropped interception by Sean Smith. He's had a rough go of it this season as a key acquisition on the defensive side of the football. He gets beat for a big touchdown in the second half of this game. Had a golden opportunity, an easy moon ball thrown up by Newton as he's getting hit. Ball is fluttering. It's right there. And he just drops the football. And he just hasn't had the type of impact that Raiders fans have been looking for. And Sean Smith continues to disappoint as he gave it. And Kelvin Benjamin is supposed to be the guy he's supposed to be able to come in and shut down and run with and stop. And wasn't able to do it on that 44-yard touchdown in the second half. We'll talk about that when we get there. But Sean Smith dropping an interception. He's been a disappointment for Raiders fans this season. Penalties. We know the Raiders struggle with penalties. Personal foul on McGee. I didn't agree with that one on Cam Newton. I thought that was a clean hit. I thought it was literally a second after he threw the football. It's not like he took 2 steps and then drilled Newton. You could come with the little scoop angle if you want. That's garbage. It's hogwash. I didn't agree with that call. Then you get the pass interference on Joseph, and that all leads to the Cam Newton touchdown run, after of which, of course, you give up the 44-yard Jonathan Stewart run. So I just thought that the Raiders helped with penalties. That's been a bugaboo of theirs all season long. You hate to see those kinds of things, especially when the Panthers were struggling. Don't help them with penalties. They're struggling on offense, and that was their only touchdown of the first half, and the Raiders helped big time. McGee first with the personal foul penalty, then the run right there after. Then the Panthers look like they're going to stall out, and then you get a pass interference penalty on Carl Joseph that gave them the opportunity to get the football down to the 4-yard line where Cam Newton would do the rest. So you go to the second half now, and we go to the likes for the Carolina Panthers. And the start to the third quarter, and really the entire third quarter, is a big like, is a positive for the Panthers in this game. They were tremendous in the third quarter of this game. You get the fumbled snap by Derek Carr, and then you just kind of get all hell breaking loose. Carr gets injured on the play. Then you have the touchdown by Jay Stu to get them that much closer. And then you kind of see all of the wheels turning. Matt McGloin has to come in. You blitz him. You almost force another turnover. You get the big ball to Ted Ginn Jr. And all of a sudden now this offense is rolling. That was dead. It is now rolling in the third quarter. You go for two. You don't get it. But the third quarter was a big quarter for the Carolina Panthers. The 88-yard bomb from Newton again, I thought woke Cam Newton up, who was struggling in this game throwing the football. At one point, he was like 4 of 14 in this game. I mean, he really was having a problem throwing the football and finding receivers. And that deep ball again, I thought woke him the hell up. He launched that one a mile and again ran under it. And Teddy Ballgame was a big fixture in this team's success last season with the deep ball. And I talked about this a little bit earlier in the season and how they haven't hooked up this season enough. And that was a big play in this game, 88 yards from Newton again. And just like that, it's 24-19. They go for two. They don't get it. But they're back in this game now. And then you get a Thomas Davis interception as Carr returns to the game, but is flustered. He flushed out of the pocket, forces it over the middle of the field, doesn't see TD lurking, who picks it off, gets it in the Raiders territory at the 28-yard line, and Cam would then deliver yet again, turns that into a touchdown. And next, Jay Stu, all of a sudden now, boom, Panthers, who were down 24-7 at the break, are now ahead 25-24. They go for two. Huge drop by Greg O. You're not used to seeing that from Greg O. He's normally shorthanded. And they ran a little bit of a pick play for him, and he didn't come up with it. Should have caught the football. But nonetheless, Panthers take their first lead of the game at 25-24. I believe that was their first lead. They may have taken the lead early in the game on the first touchdown at 7-0. I don't believe they did, but they may have. In any event, 25-24 now after trailing by 17 at the halftime break. The Panthers are now ahead. Then you get a deep ball to KB. 44 yards, and it just seemed like everything happened in the blink of an eye, and just like that, it's now 32-24, and they finally kick the extra point, go up 8, and wow, what a flurry there by the Panthers, probably their best offensive flurry all season long. They scored some points against New Orleans in a shootout where they lost 41-38, but this was impressive here. Down 24-7 on the road to come back and make a ball game of this. Very impressive, and take the lead and go up by 8. It looked like they had this game seemingly in control, and then the fourth quarter came, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But let's go to the Raiders and their second half likes. You've got the block extra point by Danico Autry. I thought that was a huge block because it set off a chain of events that had the Panthers chasing points the remainder of the game. Keep in mind, you win the football game by 3 points. If that block doesn't take place, the Panthers don't go for two times and fail. And so you're talking about that extra point being good and the subsequent two-point conversions that were attempted. Those are now extra point attempts. If those are converted, you're talking about a tie ball game at 35. So essentially, Danico Autry's blocked extra point set the stage and the table for the Raiders to ultimately win this game by a field goal, if you think about it, because the Panthers then went for two-point conversions, unsuccessful both times, and that proved to be the difference in the game, the blocked extra point and the two failed two-point conversions. So again, that's huge in this league. If you can get your hands on an extra point or a team misses one, it could come back to haunt them because you can find yourself chasing after points, and that's what the Panthers did in this game. Give some credit to Danico Autry for setting the stage there and helping the Raiders win this football game. Derek Carr is on my likes list. First of all, the toughness he showed to come back after dislocating his pinky. You could see it clearly that the pinky was going down in the opposite direction. He was in pain. Tracy Wolfson, the sideline reporter for CBS, reported that he was screaming when he came off the field, and they took him into the locker room. They popped it back into place. They put a splint on it. They put a glove on it, and he willed his way back into the game, especially it being his throwing hand. It's one thing to injure your non-throwing hand and come back. It's another thing, totally different situation, to injure your throwing hand and have to come back. And he gutted it out, came back, was spinning the football like nothing ever happened. Gutsy performance by Derek Carr. The first thing I'm thinking when he gets injured, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this injury. As a matter of fact, I'll save that for the injury talk when we get to the dislikes in the second half. But just know that this was a hell of a second half. They're down 8. He drives them down the field, not only gets them into the end zone on a beautiful thrown football to Clive Walford for the touchdown, but then turns around and rolls out of the pocket and drills it into tight window to Seth Roberts for the 2-point conversion to tie the game up at 35, and then takes him right back down the field yet again, puts him in field goal range for the game-winning field goal. Derek Carr was spectacular after the injury, after the interception. He shakes off all the adversity, the injury, the interception, wills his team to a victory. And when things are going well, they're going well, and that's how this Raiders team is sitting at 9-2 because of performances like this from the 4-car, Derek Carr, who is the unquestioned leader of this Oakland Raiders football team. And then finally, Khalil Mack. What a day for him. First, the pick six to end the first half, and then the game-clinching forced fumble and sack of Cam Newton. The triple whammy. He gets the sack, the forced fumble, and the recovery for Khalil Mack to seal this game shut as the Raiders win 35-32. Mack was an animal on that final play. Don't know what Fozzie Whitaker was doing. He should have been helping out the right tackle. I don't know what he was doing. And Mack just destroys that right tackle, gets in, swats the football out of Newton's hands, reminiscent of the Super Bowl with Von Miller, and recovers it for the victory. Let's get to the dislikes in the second half, and we go back to the Carolina Panthers. Failed 2-point conversions, 2 of them. One by Greg O, which is so uncharacteristic of him. He usually catches the football. A surprised to see him drop that. You get that 2-point conversion there, and maybe it changes the way this game unfolds. But of course, he did not catch that. And so points were being left on the scoreboard left and right by this Panthers football team after the blocked extra point. And that's also on the dislikes list. That kicked off the 2-point conversions having to be attempted. The block extra point, you can't allow that to happen. But in a season where the Panthers have struggled on special teams with field goals, we know about all the game-winning misses and things of that nature by Graham Gano. This has been a rough season for the special teams of the Carolina Panthers. They gave up a big punt return to the Vikings and a loss there. They've struggled on special teams this season, and they did it again in this game, and it hurt them with the block extra point by Danico Autry. The defense in the fourth quarter is on my dislikes list. You have such a great third quarter. Thomas Davis with the interception. You give up nothing in the third quarter. Some of that has to be attributed to the injury to Derek Carr, but the defense played its best football in that third frame, giving nothing up, forcing a turnover, and really slamming the door shut on the Raiders and their offense for that entire quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, you give up 11 points, none bigger than the drive that saw the Raiders not only go down the field and get a touchdown to Clive Walford, but giving up the 2-point conversion to allow them to tie the game up. That was huge. You got to find a way to get a stop there. And again, that's the difference between this year's team and last year's team. Last year's team finds a way to win this game, whether it be getting a stop there or even Ron Rivera rolling the dice on 4th and 1, which I'm going to talk about here in a second, or that last drive of the game, tying it up, sending it to overtime, or potentially going down and getting a touchdown in regulation and winning. Something would have been done to change the final outcome of this game last season. This season's team, however, doesn't have that ability to find a way to dig out a dirty victory on the road. That's just not the DNA of this year's Carolina Panthers football team. And then not going for it on 4th and 1 from your own 40. Here's my logic here. And look, Ron Rivera has been a dice roller of sorts, almost like the guy across from him on the sidelines has been this year, in Jack Del Rio, who has been rolling the dice left and right and it seemed to be pressing all the right buttons. I thought that Ron Rivera went soft right here on a 4th and 1. You got Cam Newton. He's going to pick up inches here on 4th and 1. And yeah, I get it. You're at your own 40, but think about it like this. There's about 5 minutes left in this game, okay? You punt this football away to Derek Carr, who's arguably one of the best fourth quarter quarterbacks in the league. And statistically, he is the best fourth quarter quarterback. Him and Matthew Stafford have been lighting it up in the fourth quarters this season. You don't want to give him the football, and your defense isn't good, and you know it. You don't want to give him the football here. I don't care how well your punter punts the ball. And it was actually a really good punt. Pinned them inside their own 15-yard line, I believe. But it doesn't matter. Okay, at this point of the game, you're looking to retain possession. And guess what? Even if you don't convert 4th and 1, guess what you're going to, in effect, do? You're going to force the Raiders to have to score, and it's going to give you an opportunity to possess the football and have a chance. If the Raiders go down and kick a field goal or the Raiders go down and get a touchdown, you're still going to get this football back with about 2 minutes and some change left, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown, and you're still going to have some timeouts in your back pocket. You're still going to have a shot. Whereas if you punt this football away with 6 or 5 minutes left in this game, they're going to eat up a good vast majority of this clock. You're not going to have many timeouts. You had one when you got it back, and you should thank the Raiders for that because they decided to throw it 2 times instead of running it once more and forcing you to use your final timeout. Then they could have thrown it on 3rd down. They elected to throw it twice, which allowed you to keep a timeout in your back pocket, but that is irrelevant at this point. You needed to go for it on 4th down there. You're a 4-6 ball club. Go for it right there. He decided not to, and the defense let him down, which you had to know was going to happen. And they go down the field, and luckily enough for you, you got the football back after the defense was able to force a field goal. But still, I felt like the opportunity was there. You had momentum offensively. You could feel the game slipping away after you were able to score 25 unanswered points in this game to take a 32-24 lead. You had the control of this game. You could feel it slipping away. That was an opportunity to re-grasp this game by going for it on 4th and 1 and converting, and instead you decided to punt, and I thought that was the wrong decision at that point of the game. You go to the Raiders' second half dislikes. The fumble by Derek Carr, I thought, started that onslaught from the Panthers of 25 consecutive unanswered points. That fumble, and he hurts himself, which is the next dislike. Right there, in that moment, I'm not a Raiders fan, but I'm holding my breath. The first thing that popped into my mind, Andy Dalton last season with the Cincinnati Bengals. Remember how well the Bengals were playing. They were right around this same point in the season. You felt like they got as good a chance as anybody to go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. The AFC was wide open last season, and Dalton breaks his hand after throwing an interception on the helmet of a Steelers player, and that, in effect, destroyed the Bengals' chances last year. And the first thing that popped in my mind was, oh my goodness, this is a repeat of Andy Dalton. If Derek Carr is done for any amount of time, not only is it going to wreck their chances of winning the AFC West, it's going to wreck their season. And just to know that he was able to come back and play and will them to a victory, whew, you had to just wipe your head and say, we dodged the bullet. The Raiders have been relatively unscathed health-wise this season. That would have been the biggest injury of all if Carr was not able to continue. You would have lost this game because Matt McGloin was going to come in and they were going to light his ass up. They blitzed him, hit him, knocked the ball in the air. They were going to blitz the draws off of Matt McGloin. You're going to lose this football game. And luckily, Carr was able to come back. Then giving up the deep ball to Ted Ginn Jr. You can't do that. Can't do that. This Panthers offense, Cam Newton was struggling up until that deep ball. And you got him pinned all the way back at their own 12-yard line. He was struggling in this game. And you allow him to rip off that deep ball and beat the corner there. TJ Carey didn't stand a chance. Ginn outruns him to the end zone, and 88 yards later, it's now 24-19, and now here comes the Carolina Panthers on the comeback trail. And, of course, Derek Carr throwing the interception on the very next possession, which then led to more Panthers points. And then you give up another deep ball, which is also on the dislikes list, the 44-yard touchdown to KB. That can't happen. I mean, Sean Smith is right there. At worst, it's a knockaway. And he simply just didn't get off his feet. And Calvin Benjamin out-muscled him for that football. It can't happen. But it did. And like I said, the nightmare season for Sean Smith continues as he drops an interception in the first half and then gives up a big ball in the second half that allowed the Panthers to extend the lead out to 32-25. But all in all, the Raiders got it done. And this is what good teams in this league do. They find ways to win. Panthers aren't a very good team this season. They found a way to lose this game, whether you look at the blocked extra point or the 2 missed 2-point conversions, or even having it late. Going down the field and not executing. Greg Olsen with an opportunity to make a good catch over the middle. Maybe Cam can bring it down just a smidge, but we've seen Greg Olsen make that catch before. He didn't make it. And like I said, uncharacteristically dropped the 2-point conversion, and that I classify that as a drop late in the game on that final possession. I've seen Greg O make those plays, and he just didn't make them in this game. And again, that's why the Panthers are 4-7. Last year, they make those plays. They win this game. This season, they don't make those plays. They lose this game. Raiders made all the plays necessary, including Khalil Mack's closing of the door with the forced fumble and recovery on the sack of Newton at the very end. This Raiders team making all of the right plays when they have to. They were under attack after giving up 25 unanswered. And what does Derek Carr do? Just throwing an interception. He's struggling. This team is struggling. And he goes out and puts together a beautiful drive. Crabtree with a huge catch down the sideline. Walford with a beautiful catch in the end zone. And then he goes and gets the 2-point conversion to Seth Roberts. That's what champions do. And the Raiders are well on their way to being AFC West champions if they can continue to play like this. The defense got some issues, but you find a way to win, and that's what the game is all about. Let's get to some of your comments here in this breakdown. Mindraw says, so that means not everyone can pull out a fourth quarter comeback like the Lions. Ha! Take that analysis or analyst. Not everybody. Derek Carr seems to be able to do that, but no, not everybody is Matthew Stafford. Not everybody has that guy with ice water in his veins that can bring his team back from behind with the game on the line. Bossaholic says, Cam, Vic's waiting for your ass. We'll see about that. We will see. Nick Riley says, man, I swear sooner or later Raiders luck gonna run out. Maybe, maybe not. But it's not luck when you're 9-2. It's luck when you're 7-4 and you find ways to win games at the end, sort of like the Lions do. That's somewhat luck. Somewhat skill, too. When you do it enough times, it becomes an actual skill. But 9-2, there's no luck involved in that. The Cowboys are 10-1. There's no luck involved in that. You got to win football games to get to 9-2 to 10-1, and that's what the Raiders are doing. I don't classify this as luck at all. This is skill, my man. Winning is an art that can be mastered, and if you do it enough times, it becomes a skill, and the Raiders are learning how to win, and it's becoming a skill for them as this season progresses. Bossaholic says, I love watching those dabbing celebrations, 2015 Panthers, and seeing how they are now, LOL. Oh, man, that's a little bit of Panther hate being thrown on the top of this W for the Raiders. Mindraw says, come on, Lou. Tell these guys the fourth quarter comeback is not all because you're lucky. No, it's not, and that's basically what I just said. It's not all luck. All right, it's a skill that you can develop if you do it enough times. That's the repetition of it all. And the Lions, some of that is luck. I will say that, you know, with some of the plays and some of the ways things transpire. But make no mistake about it, Matthew Stafford has that part of the game down to a science. And if you give him an opportunity late in the ball game, he will hurt you. And so, no, it is not luck. When you do it enough times, it is not luck. It becomes a performed skill. And some teams have it. Some quarterbacks have it. Others don't. And that's the difference between your team being 3-8, your team being 4-7, your team being 5-6 right now, and the Raiders being 9-2, the Lions being 7-4, and the Dallas Cowboys being 10-1. Good teams find ways to win. Good quarterbacks find a way to will their teams to victories, and the others just simply don't. Bossaholic says, I knew those Panthers were flawed with their situation, offensive tackle situation, and teams are exposing it. We saw it in the Super Bowl last year, but that's not why this team stinks right now. They haven't been able to win the close ones this season. The games that they were winning last season close, they haven't been able to do it this season. Some of that is on the defense. Some of that is on special teams. I've talked about the special teams failures this year. I mean, look no further than week 1. They should have beat the Denver Broncos. Graham Gano misses a field goal. It's been that type of season for the Carolina Panthers this year. The games that they pulled out at the end last season that were wins, have been losses this year. Remember that shootout in New Orleans last year where they came from behind and Jericho Cotchery catches the touchdown late to give them that win in a shootout, in a massive shootout in New Orleans? Same situation this year. They're not able to get it done. They lose 41 to 38. Same type of game, different result. And that's where the Panthers are this year. They just haven't been able to pull out the close ones. That Tampa Bay game, no Cam Newton. They should have beat the Buccaneers. That was a horrible game to lose. But no Cam Newton, 2 interceptions by Derek Anderson, including one in the end zone. You lose a football game. That's the difference between them this year and last year, not just the offensive tackles. Bossaholic says, sources tell me the Panthers will put the dab on season-ending IR. The crying Jordan face will be starting in place. More Panthers hate, man. That was a good one, though. T. Littles says, best team, Pats or Raiders? Right now, I would go with the Patriots just because of Tom Brady, just because of the experience of the Patriots having been there before. I think the Patriots defense isn't all that good, but they're better than the Raiders defense. I mean, how often do you see the Patriots giving up 32 points to a team that's 4-7? Not often. Patriots may not be very good on defense, but they do play good enough defense to win. Raiders played enough defense to win this game, but again, I think there's still some issues there defensively for the Oakland Raiders, and you saw that with the deep balls and the big completions for Newton. Newton didn't have a great game, but he had some chunk plays, 88 to Ginn for a touchdown, 44 to KB for a touchdown. There were some chunk plays, the big 47-yard run for Jonathan Stewart. There were some big plays given up by the Raiders defensively, and that can't happen if you want to win Super Bowls and big games in the playoffs. You're going to have to play much better defense. Mondraw says, I love the Raiders, but this team is young. I do not know how far they'll go in the playoffs. I think that's the biggest concern for the Raiders right now is how far do they go in the playoffs because of that youth and inexperience. It takes experience to win come January, and I don't think the Raiders, of course, don't have that. You hope the guys like Bruce Irvin and Malcolm Smith that have been there before, done that, can instill that into this team, but there's just not enough of those guys. Maybe another guy like Hudson or Kelechi Osemele who's been to the playoffs. You'd like to think that those guys might be able to help, but you don't know until you've experienced it. And there are too many young players on this Raiders team that haven't seen winning before. And when it comes to those big games in January, I think that's when you're going to really find out how far this Raiders team has to go before they're going to actually be a serious contender in the AFC. We'll see what happens, but they're winning games right now. That's all that matters. Bossholic says, who wins the AFC West? I'm sticking with the Kansas City Chiefs until they're no longer able to win this division. That was a big loss for them last week at home to Tampa Bay. They may lose again tonight to Denver, but they still have already beat the Raiders, have a chance to sweep them. I'm not counting Kansas City out. They're a scary team. Despite all the injuries, they're a dangerous team. I think the Chiefs, when it's all said and done, they're going to be there with this Oakland Raiders team. And the Denver Broncos, don't count them out either. But I think all of the wild cards are going to this division. And I still think the Chiefs are going to win this division, even though I think the Raiders have a great shot to go into Kansas City, into Arrowhead, and win that game. We'll see what happens between then and now. Long ways to go before we start talking about who's going to do what in that wild AFC West, very competitive division. T. Little says, do the Dolphins sneak that last wild card spot? It's possible. Okay, after tonight's game, someone's going to be 7-4. Dolphins are 7-4. The difference is, are the Dolphins going to be able to keep this up? That's the question. They have the strength of schedule. They don't play a lot of tough teams, do the Dolphins. But the question is, late in the season, we've seen this act from the Dolphins before. They play good football, and then they get into the later portion of their schedule, and they start playing those AFC East opponents, whether it's in Buffalo and they go and get drubbed, or it's the Jets and they lay an egg there. They got to win these games. And it's going to be interesting to see because if I'm not mistaken, the Dolphins have every single team in that division once more. And I think every single one of those games is on the road with the exception of the Patriots week 17. I think they got to go to New York to play the Jets or New Jersey to play the Jets. I think they got to go to Buffalo to play the Bills. And the Bills have been a house of horrors for them in Buffalo. And they struggle winning in New York against the Jets. So we'll see what happens with the Dolphins. They're winning football games, and that's what matters. They're on a 6-game winning streak right now, 7-4. They're still looking at that division, though. They haven't counted themselves out of that AFC East division yet, and so they still got work to do, though. Jim Hoover says, think we will see Alden Smith back this season. I think you will, but Commissioner Roger Goodell's going to make him wait. He's not going to rush his decision. Alden Smith's had so many chances. He's going to make him sweat a little while. So you could expect Alden to wait a little while, but I think at some point you will see Alden Smith back in silver and black this season. Young Gambino, who should the Panthers draft in next year? It's too early for me to start talking draft. I'm sorry, I can't do it right now. T. Little says, Cowboys defense scare you? No, they don't. No one should be afraid of that Cowboys defense. What you should be afraid of, though, is that Cowboys offense, because it is lethal, it is prolific, and they can do something that we've seen work time and time again in this season, and that's run the football. Come January, come February, when it gets cold, when it's that time of the year where running the football is of the utmost importance, the Cowboys can do it, and they can do it the best of anybody in this league. And we've seen teams win doing that in this league, and the Cowboys do it better than anybody else in the league. So that's going to do it for this breakdown. Raiders get the win 35-32 in dramatic fashion. Derek Carr, injured, comes back out. The crowd goes nuts, and he wills his team to a victory after giving up 25 unanswered points and having a 24-7 halftime lead. The Raiders rally back, tie the game at 32. Carr takes them back down the field, get the game-winning field goal, win 35-32, get their record to 9-2. First winning season for the Raiders since 2002. Remember, that was their last playoff season, coincidentally. So this is a big win for the Raiders. Meanwhile, on the other side of this thing, the Panthers lose again. They're now 4-7 on the season, and this pretty much puts a nail in their coffin. I had already written the Panthers off this season a couple weeks ago, but this loss pretty much seals their fate as they're not able to get it done and drop to 4-7 on the season. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on Lockdown Coverage. Come back and join me as I'll break down the Patriots and Jets game at the halftime mark of this Chiefs and Broncos Sunday night game. And then, of course, we'll come back and break down Sunday Night Football, which is probably of the utmost importance to these Raiders fans, as they'll be watching this game very closely to see who pulls this game out and who's going to be a game behind them in the very ultra-competitive AFC West division. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. Enjoy Sunday Night Football. I'll be back at halftime to break down Jets Patriots. I'll see you then. Have a good one.